Hey everyone, back again, and today I want to kind of give you guys I don't know, I guess my origin story, I guess you could say, in terms of how I got to. If you guys don't know, I collect video games, obviously, as you can see, and I'm a full-time eBay reseller, and I've been doing it for plenty of years now, and I just kind of wanted to, kind of explain how I got in the situation that I'm in now. Um, so basically, right now I'm 20, so obviously I didn't buy all this stuff new. So basically, I was really inspired by a lot of YouTubers I used to watch, um, like Chase and CJR and Reen Bean, all those guys, that used to make all the garage selling videos, collecting video games. And even before that, I was always a big collector, I guess, my whole life. Even when I was, like 5 or whatever, I used to collect like bouncy balls. I'd have like a huge bin of them, and after that I was into Hot Wheels really big. I had like whole like feel like a whole room of them, and after that was Nerf guns. I've been into a lot of things basically, but over my time. But at this point, video games has kind of been what I stuck with, I guess. And I was somehow able to build a pretty good business out of it, so it makes it even better. um So, yeah, I made a sheet here. If you wonder why I'm looking down, I have a sheet here so I try not to forget anything. So, my video game journey really started. Our whole family, we've like my whole life, I've pretty much gone to garage sales and stuff like that. Just as I said before, collecting, Nerf guns, and I'd buy Hot Wheels and all that stuff. But eventually, I was at a garage sale. I was with my dad and my mom. I was kind of thinking about when all this stuff happened. I believe I was around 12 at the time, and we saw a GameCube sitting on the table. And I would always watch all these YouTubers, that it was such a great system. And so I'm like, Dad, we got to get this. We got to get this GameCube, you know? He's like, all right. And I think it was like, I had to convince him. It was a little harder to convince him than that, but I believe it was like 20 or 30 bucks, and I had like probably 30 games, but they were like all Madden, and there was a couple Tony Hawk games, which is what I mainly played when I first got it. And other than that, it was basically just all junk. But that's besides the point. I got the GameCube, um, and I really enjoyed it. I would go out and I would find like GameCube games. I'd kind of seek them out. I'd go to I remember my mom for one of my birthdays, she got me. I just thought of this. It was funny. A copy of Mario Sunshine because I really wanted that game. Like that was like the best game on the system. What I thought at the time. And I remember she got me a sealed copy of the game, and I didn't want to open it, but I ended up opening it. And I asked her, I'm like, what did you pay for that? And we went back in our history, and it was like 20 bucks for a sealed copy of the game. So it's just crazy looking back at that. But so I was probably around 12 at the time, and I kept going to garage sales, and then next, I would say maybe a year later, I found, and I was always looking for these systems. I was trying to get one of each Nintendo system. That was really my goal in the beginning. And I found a Nintendo 64 at a yard sale. And I believe it was kind of the same price. It was like 20, 25 bucks. And I didn't even have the money at the time. So I had to like really do some convincing here. I think I had to mow the grass a couple times, but my dad, he did let me get it, thankfully. And one of the games that was with it was an N64, a couple of controllers, and maybe like 20 games, you know. And I remember one of the games with it, which is still my most expensive game, was Stunt Race 64 that was in that lot. So just, my God, crazy. It's like just that game alone is like 300 bucks now. And so I'd play all those games. Mario Kart was with it, GoldenEye. I'm trying to remember all the games. I think Diddy Kong Racing and just some other games that were with it. So, and then, we keep going to garage sales. I'm finding games, I'm getting like a lot of Wii games at this time. At this point, I'm probably like 14 or so. And I remember my first handheld that I found, it was a Game Boy SP with a couple games, and it was spray painted on the top, but it was like $2 or something, and I got it, and that was fun. You can then at that point I could play any Game Boy games I wanted, so that was pretty cool. And so the years kind of went on, and I was maybe a couple years later, I'm still kind of building up games for the systems that I had at the time. And then my real dream was always to get an NES. Like, I had to get the original Nintendo. Like, I always wanted one. And I think it was my dad or something. He was on Facebook looking at, like, the garage sale listings. He was scrolling through the pictures, and there was a Nintendo with a bunch of games, and the Super Nintendo and, like, N64. This was, like, this crazy garage sale. So we all got in the car, and I think it was like a 20-minute drive, but we were like speeding the whole way, trying to get it. And at this point, it was like, it's crazy to think about this now that it would even still be there. It was probably middle of the day, like 12 or 1 o'clock, and we got to the sale, and we actually went in the wrong spot. It took us forever to find it, but eventually we got to the sale, and it was still there. I was, so excited. But we asked him what he wanted for it. It was the Nintendo with probably about 30, 40 games. It was kind of the ones you'd expect. Like, all the Marios were there, Contra, Batman, all 3 Turtles games were there. I remember playing those when I first got it, and I think Castlevania, just kind of the classics that you would expect. And we asked the guy what he wanted, and he said 100, and we were like, weren't really sure. I was probably 13 or 14 at the time. I didn't really have any money. I didn't have a job or anything, so... And I was one of those people, if you get $20 or, whatever for your birthday, it's going to get spent that day. So I was one of those kind of people. So I really didn't have any money at the time. And my mom and my dad, I think he wanted it. They wanted it too, because that's what they grew up with, was the original Nintendo. So they were cool with that. They're like $100, we're getting all these games. And I remember the guy brought out a CRT TV and he tested it out for us. We're like, we got to see it work, And it took a few tries, but we got it going. And then the Super Nintendo, I'm like, Mom, we got to get the Super Nintendo too. It was, again, Super Nintendo with like 30 games, and they were just, Zelda, Mario, all the ones you'd think that would be there, F-Zero, Star Fox, and, she wasn't going to get it for me, and then eventually, I don't know what I did, but I somehow convinced her to get it for me, and, it was awesome that we were able to get that stuff. And at the sale too, there was a Nintendo 64 in the box with probably like, I don't know, maybe like 60 or 70. Like, it was the original box, and then the entire thing was just full of games, and the system was sitting on the outside. I think he wanted 100 for that, but I already had a Nintendo 64, so we didn't get it. And he also had a Game Boy there, and I don't remember what was with that, but at that point, my parents were already mad enough that we spent a couple $100 at a garage sale, so I didn't get that either. So if you're out there and you got that stuff, definitely write in the comments. And, so we're going to garage sales, I'm getting good deals. Maybe a year passes, and I get my first duplicate games at a sale that I got super cheap. I mean, I had some other duplicates at that point, but I just added them to the collection. But I was at this garage sale up at my cottage, and it was Killer Instinct and Mario 3. And obviously, so Mario 3 would be NES, and Killer Instinct was on the Super Nintendo. And I got them. They were at the garage sale, and they were less than $1 a piece, probably 50 cents a piece, I'm like, I can't leave these here. I already have them, but maybe I should just get them anyway. So I did. I spent the $1 on them, the 2 of them, and, I brought them home, and I was like, what should I do with these games? I already got them, so I don't need them. And I was thinking maybe I should trade it into a game store, but nah, I mean, I hear bad things that you get ripped off of them. So I decided that I should list it on eBay. And I listed the Killer Instinct first, and we put it up. We were going to do an auction, which, looking back, I don't know why I was doing an auction. It's an easy game to find the value for. I think we started at like $2 or something. We hit list, and then instantly it sells. And we're like, what? Like, it was supposed to be an auction. So somehow we put it up for a buy it now for $2. So we had to cancel the order and be like, oh, sorry, we messed up the price. And then at that point I learned, so I listed the Mario 3 correctly and the Killer Instinct once we relisted it. So, and then those sold pretty I mean, it was like we did the 7-day auction, so they were sold in 7 days. And I think I made like, between the two of them, it was maybe 15, $20. And I was like, oh my God, I just took $1 and made it into 15, And then I think I went out the next day and I went to like the game store and bought one of like an NES game or something that I wanted. And I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. I traded 2 things I didn't need or didn't want into 2 things that something I did want. So at that point I went in my collection and, I got my duplicates. I think, I probably had a few Mario Kart Wiis and, just kind of the commons. Wii Sports, I think I had a stack of those, so I was listing them at the time. Like this was like at least probably 6 years ago, the prices were like nothing what they are now. And, so I was getting not much for these items that I was selling, but at the time it felt like a lot, when you have no money and you're getting like $20, it's like feels incredible, for stuff that's just sitting around. And then at that point, my mind kind of shifted when I was going to these places, like, because before I was just looking for myself. I was like, okay, is there any games that I want here? And now it's like, okay, now we need to get good deals and try to sell this stuff off so then I can get the stuff that I do want. So I was never like an Xbox or PlayStation fan, but then after that I started, buying some of those systems. It was funny just thinking back because you'd list like a PS2 with like 4 controllers and a bunch of games. You get like $40, and it's like, oh my God, should have kept that stuff. But let me see here, look at my notes. So at this point, we knew this guy. We kept going to this flea market, this indoor flea market, and we were good friends with him. And at this point, I think maybe a little before this, it's hard to remember everything exactly, the order it happened. Yeah, before this, I bought an Atari 2600 from my local Disc Replay, which is like a game store around here. I think I paid like 30 or $40 for it with like a controller and nothing with it. And the reason that I bought it, well, also watching people, like a lot of people, I don't know, it's just a system I really wanted to get just because of how old it was, and people like the Angry Video Game Nerd, and then they made it look like kind of something that'd be cool to own. So I went out and I bought one. And just like I said, at the time, a little battery warning here. At the time, I didn't have a lot of money. And that was another thing that was appealing about that system, because at my local game store, the Atari games were $1 a piece. So instead of buying one Super Nintendo game, for $10 or whatever, I could buy 10 Atari games. So that was like really cool. So I bought that system with maybe like 5 games I had left at the time. And then I was really getting into the Atari 2600 at the time. And at this point, I only had a flat screen TV, and I was watching all these videos. It was hard enough just to get it hooked up to there. And I was watching all these videos. Everyone's like, you need to get an old TV to play these games. I'm like, that would be pretty cool. So, again, I went out searching. There's this local church sale that is every week near me, and I went there looking for an old TV, and they had the perfect one there for me. So I picked it up, and if you watched my Atari videos, that Quasar TV that's on the stand, that's the one that I bought. That was my first CRT TV that I bought. Now I have like probably 30 of them now, but that was the first one that I bought, and I loved it. I mean, I played, I could finally play Duck Hunt, and playing all these old games on it. It was pretty cool, and it really, especially with the Atari, it added to the aesthetic, I guess, that I was really going for at the time. And why I wanted to mention the Atari first is because one of the first major things that I bought, like it wasn't expensive, but this guy at this local flea market, as I was saying, he had paddle controllers for the Atari 2600, and I bought a set for myself because I wanted to play Breakout, because that was one of the games I bought, and I don't know, I just didn't think about it needing a different controller. So I'm like, oh, I need to buy the controllers. So I asked him, he's like, oh, they're $1, for a pair. So I'm like, okay, I'll grab a set. And I got in the car. I'm like, wait, I should have probably looked that up, because that seemed like a pretty good deal. I looked it up, and they were selling for like, $20 for a set. I'm like, oh my God, turn around, So we turned around, bought all the paddles, controllers. It was probably like $15 worth. So he probably had like 15 sets or something. So it was cool because I could afford it too. So I got them, and if you know anything about the Atari paddles, they never work really. So I learned how to fix them. I watched some YouTube videos, and I was opening them. I opened all of them up, and I was cleaning all the contacts. I fixed them all. I mean, that was actually the first YouTube video I ever made, was how to fix them. I did it probably a year ago or whatever. But those paddles really, that was one of the first things beyond those other things that really showed me, like, maybe, I could make some decent money on this. I probably made $100 or whatever on those paddles, and that was awesome. I still remember it to this day, obviously. And, that was just really cool. And it was also, I do a lot of repairs and stuff too now. And, that was kind of like the beginning of my repair stuff. And then, at this point, I'm in high school. So it sucks because I was, in like a freshman and, sophomore, you don't want to skip school. I wasn't one of those kind of people. So my mom and dad would be going to the garage sales on Friday and, other places, thrift stores throughout the week. And I think they really enjoyed it too. And they still do. They really, especially my dad, he really enjoys collecting this stuff too. So they would go out and they would be sending me pictures of stuff. So it was exciting. I'd be sitting at school, and I'd get sent like big GameCube lot or big, whatever it is, Nintendo, Atari, really anything. And, most of the time, after I built up the money from the paddles and some other things I was selling, I was able to buy like system bundles for like $50, and just sell the system and most of the games and keep exactly what I would want to keep from it. So that was cool. It was always exciting seeing what they would send me on Fridays. And my grandma also, it was a really, really big help early on, finding a lot of really good deals. She was also out there, and a lot of my relatives really were, but it was mainly my grandma and my mom and my dad were really helping me when I was at school, especially, and even now, Let me see. And then it was funny because during a lot of my classes, I would be like, and like relisting things and editing prices and stuff, so a lot of my friends knew me for that, and everyone kind of knew that I did this. But, it was obviously just a hobby at first, and, I was basically just selling off duplicates, and if there a good deal came across, I would buy it and sell what I didn't need, Yeah, and then by the time I got to senior year, like junior and senior year, it was when I was getting a little more serious about it. I was spending like, I was buying lots for like, $600. This was after like years of slow, like buying lots like for no more than 50. I remember the first thing I bought for like over $100. I was like, oh my God, I was so scared, And so I was just buying the lots. I just kept buying bigger and bigger collection. At this point, I'm buying like people's collections, and I would be. It's kind of funny, but I would, in like senior year and junior, especially senior year, I skipped like every Friday. Like I just called off. I went to the garage sales. I needed to make. I was making money. So I kind of seen it as just like a job almost. So I would just go, and I would basically just take off school and go around and buy video games all day, pretty much. And everyone thought that was kind of funny. Let's see, I don't think there's any notes on the back of this, but yeah, I mean, and after that, I mean, it really, especially at like the end of senior year, even throughout the whole senior year, it really started to take off. Like I was like selling so much stuff. Like I was selling like, 5-10 things a day, and it was really exciting. And I just kept buying stuff, keeping, obviously I collect too, so it was exciting. It was fun just to be building up these, I was realizing like, dude, I'm getting like hundreds of games and I'm making money somehow, and it's, this is insane. So I just kept doing it and doing it, and then, it just really blew up. I mean, I don't know what to say, but I mean, now it's like insane how much stuff that we sell and we get. And it was a journey to get there, though. I mean, this collection does not happen overnight, and you know, I've made a collection video and a few people commented like, "Oh, you didn't get that stuff from garage sales." You know, that's cool if you don't believe that, but you know, literally like 95% of the stuff I have is from garage sales, and I think that's really cool. I think the journey is a big part of why I collect. It's fun just to even, you know, when you go to a garage sale and you see like a Sega CD or something, like it's exciting, man. I mean, there's no other feeling like it really to me. And I can, like, and now I'm literally doing it as a full-time job. Like, I wasn't sure when I graduated high school, you know, and throughout all of high school, everyone always asked me, you know, what do you want to do, you know, after high school, like as a job, you know, like what college are you going to? I'm like, I don't really know, you know. I wasn't really a big fan of school in any way, obviously. And I don't know. I always would say, you know, at first I was going to go into computers but I don't know, and then after high school, you know, I felt kind of pressured to start doing that. So I went in like a IT program, you know, and I was studying and I was just really not enjoying it. I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? You know, I was really not enjoying it, and it was really hard for me. And so I was like, it was taking up, you know, a lot of my time. The same thing with school. So by the time once I graduated, I was like, and the IT stuff, you know, I quit that pretty soon after I started it. I just really wasn't liking it. So I'm like, what if I put all my time into, you know, cleaning these and fixing all this stuff and selling it? And so far, I mean, I don't know what to say, but it's working out well for me. And I'm really glad that I was able to get here somehow. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say. I mean, I just wanted to kind of give a little more, you know, because you guys hear my voice and, you know, you don't really know what I look like or anything. So I just kind of wanted to make a video and just straight up just talking to you and letting you know, I guess, exactly how this collection kind of came to be. And, you know I know I don't talk too much about the reselling aspect of, like, at my channel. I made, I think, one video about it or something, but, you know, that's how I get all this stuff, basically. Just like a lot of I just sound like all the YouTubers, but you just collect, you know, and you sell what you don't need, and somehow you get a bunch of games. But it's true. I mean, it really does work, and, you know, it's amazing that, you know, I've always dreamed of having all this stuff, and, you know, watching all these videos, people with, like, you know, all these games and all these old rare systems and, you know, like all these Atari systems. That's really what I like collecting the most, I think, is Atari stuff. Just, I don't know why, I've just always really liked it and thought it was cool, and I'm just glad now that I was able to build up a collection for free, and, you know, it was fun, and I have a lot of stories to tell, I guess, about it. So, yeah, and here we are. We got a collection, and I'm making money selling stuff, and I'm happy. So, anyway, that's pretty much it. If you liked this video, I guess let me know in the comments if you want me to do anything else like this. I could probably make a decent amount of videos about telling stories about getting all this stuff. There's a lot of crazy stories, but anyway, you guys have a fantastic day, and, you know, I guess just follow your dreams, you know, just don't give up and keep hustling. Later.